Hello. Today we're going to talk about the preparedness for war topic, and we're going to look at the various aspects of it that you'll need to understand in order to write good essays or be able to give good source question explanations. So, in the illustrative areas, the preparedness for war outline is the extent to which Britain was fully prepared for war, planning, developments in the army, navy, and air force, and in civil defence and industrial capacity. So, the sort of questions you can get asked that they have asked over the past few years are the extent to which Britain's military preparedness at the outbreak of war in 1939, or the civil defence was better prepared than our armed forces, or how well prepared were the British government and its people when war broke out in 1939. So you can see for the 2019 question, it's just asking you about military preparedness. The 2017 question is asking you to compare civil defence and military preparedness, and the 2014 question is just asking you about the whole thing in general. So basically, when we're doing preparedness for war, there are kind of four main areas that you can look at when deciding if Britain was prepared or not. First one is alliances, which is how many allies had Britain secured to fight Germany and the extent to which these allies were willing and able to fight. You can also talk about the alliances part as part of the military preparations, because obviously the alliances help Britain be militarily prepared. So if the question is asking you to compare civil defence and military, you can have a paragraph on alliances. Civil defence is asking about how the public protected, so that's talking about things like air raid shelters and evacuation and fire prevention and the emergency services and those sort of things. You can also talk there a lot about morale and how the morale of the British people was meant to be maintained and those sort of things. You can also kind of talk a little bit about leadership there, because obviously the defence of the nation, the morale of the nation is much better if they're able to think that they have an effective leader in charge. And the third section you can look at is the economy. So that's asking you if the economy can handle the pressures of total war, so whether there were enough kind of procedures and plans in place to make sure that Britain was going to be able to turn its economy from a peacetime economy to a wartime economy. That is about measures of control, measures of kind of imports and exports, how the economy was going to be directed, how workers were going to be directed, and finally the military, which is going to look at how the three branches of the military could fight effectively. So what I've done is I've put information about all four of those aspects into a PowerPoint, which is in the lesson 2 folder, in the revision folder on the OneDrive. If you can't find it, just send me an email or send me a message and I will point you in the right direction. The other thing that I want you to kind of think about for this lesson is primary sources and historians' opinions. So one of the things that's really important when doing this are the Cabinet Office documents, and Cabinet Office documents can be found on the National Archives website, and so I've put the kind of front page there. So there are lots of different cabinet documents. So what I've done is I have put one of the Cabinet Office documents into the folder so that you can see what it's like. So, and have a read through some of them. So I've highlighted 4 in particular that I think would be a good idea for you to read through. And the way that there's a huge amount of this, it goes on for pages and pages and pages. And these documents, just to remind you, are documents that the cabinet, so the Prime Minister and the other ministers in the cabinet would be looking at before they made decisions. So they're official documents. A lot of them are secret documents that the public would have no access to. So they've been released over time and they've been declassified. So there's a lot of very secret things in this that are very interesting for historians. So as I say, I picked out 4 that I think they will be particularly interesting, but you can look through them. If you go to the kind of early pages, you can see there's a list there of basically what is contained in these documents. But I've picked out 4 that I think will be particularly interesting. The best way to find them, because it's a very long document, is just to go to the search bar at the top and just put in the page numbers, which I have included on the introductions. So the first one is on page 139. So it is about the raw materials and foods and how much stocks basically Britain has at this in 1939. So have a look through that and see what you think. Some interesting stuff there. There are other ones about defense and about Russia and about the army that are all very interesting. You can take some quotes from them. You can kind of get a better understanding there. These are the sort of things that really add weight to your essays. I've also included in the folder a copy of a book by Robert Mackay, which is quite interesting. It's very well written. It's very interesting. It's not particularly weighty. It's not something you have to wade through. So have a look through that as well if you're studying this topic, because I think that will give you another perspective. And again, it's another historian that shows that you've engaged with historiography. As I said in the instructions, I've given you quite a lot of stuff to do in terms of a lot of reading. One of the things about home learning is that we can spend quite a lot of time doing reading. Usually we would kind of talk about these things in class and I would kind of get you to think about them a bit, but this is a real opportunity for you to kind of, in a sense, prepare for what's going to happen next in your life when you go away to university or you're working where you have to kind of develop a bit more independence, a bit more thought. So have a look through the things that I've said. You don't have to look at them all. You can look at certain ones and you can find out the bits that you're more or less interested in. As I say in the instructions as well, I'm not expecting you to submit anything here, but if you have an essay plan that you've written, or there's a source question that you've written, or an essay itself that you've written, or there are notes that you've taken, you want me to have a look over them to see if you're on the right track, that's totally fine. You can submit them in as a Word document, you submit them as a photograph, and I'm more than happy to have a look over them and give you any feedback and point you in the right direction. And as ever, if you get any other questions, just let me know.